There is already a state that exists, that is Israel occupying another state that also exists, that is the state of Palestine. The vast majority of the world, 139 countries out of the UN's 193 countries, member states, have already recognized the state of Palestine. It must be fully sovereign and independent. There must be no room for any Israeli interference in any of its internal affairs, and it must have full control over its borders. So this is about Palestinian statehood. We must stop talking about two states as if we are going to create two states as a solution. This is about Palestinian statehood. It's about independence and ending occupation. That's what we need to do. And for that, we have outlined the 8 steps that will get us there, because it's not complicated. This is the only way out of the current situation. It is the only path forward to a sustainable resolution. And it is the logical and rational approach to adopt by anyone seriously interested in resolution and peace. Let's end the confusion, the deliberate confusion. Israel is engaged in a genocide against our people, and liberation, statehood, freedom, and accountability under law are the only guarantees we have that this will never happen again. Thank you. Now I'll take some questions. Okay, we'll take one from here and one from here.
Thank you, Mr. Massoud. My question is regarding what Biden said yesterday. How optimistic are you about the ceasefire, which is he's saying is imminent?
Well, I believe Netanyahu and the Israeli government are very good at playing games, at framing, at buying time. Because if you have agreed on the principles, you would stop killing more than 100 innocent people every day. What it looks like on the ground is Israel is relentless on its military campaign until this morning. The rest, we have no substantial evidence that this is being heeded by Israel whatsoever. However, what we want to see is an immediate and permanent ceasefire. An immediate and permanent ceasefire. Because everything else based on that, we cannot have the massive humanitarian and reconstruction program without access. We cannot do anything else without reaching an immediate and permanent ceasefire.
Zmlot, you mentioned there's a lot of hypocrisy at play, there's a genocide going on, and Western leaders seem completely oblivious or not interested, whereas they were really quick to condemn Russia, to help Ukraine. They're still giving arms to Ukraine, and instead of actually helping Palestinian people, they're cutting funding to UNRWA. Why do you think that is? You must have spoken to a lot of politicians in the West. Why are they so? Why are they not as keen to help Palestine as they were Ukraine, for example?
You know, the events of the last 5 months or so have really unmasked many things. It has unmasked Israel in a way, in my opinion, that has led to the unprecedented change in the public opinion perception and the waves you've seen of people taking off to the streets because of the process of unmasking. But also, equally so, some key Western countries have been unmasked as well. It's clear that rules are not applied the same. There are no equality in the application of rules, and you've invoked Ukraine here, which is an example of how Western countries were quick in describing the situation in an accurate manner, that this is an invasion and occupation, that the people of Ukraine have the right to resist, and not only have the right to resist, but the US, the UK, and the rest of Europe were quick to provide material support, unprecedented for Ukrainian resistance. And the West was very quick to push for Russia to be sent to the ICC and the ICJ. But the opposite, exactly the opposite, has been done when it comes to Israel. We are prevented from accessing international judicial system, concerted efforts at almost flipping the situation upside down, where the West is sending weapons to the side that is committing genocide, not only occupation. So, yes, and I'll tell you, in our opinion, this has become the most existential threat to our international order at this point in time. Because people in the South, people in the East, and millions of people in the West have seen that this system does not work for all. It's not working for all. That there are few countries who really consider this system to be selective and it only applied on your foes, but not on your friends and allies. I very much hope we will repair our international order. Very much hope, because we don't have a better model so far. And we must repair it. But countries like the US and the UK have done a lot by way of damaging the credibility of our international system. Next. Dominique, and then after you. Sorry. Yes.
You talked about Palestinian statehood. The end of occupation is the final goal. But there are talks that your prime minister resigned because President Mahmoud Abbas was negotiating with Israel and with the US post-ceasefire to govern Gaza. How can it ever negotiate, for example, with the US, which is complicit in everything that has happened in genocide? How can you trust that process to achieve end of occupation and a statehood?
Our Prime Minister and the current government resigned to make sure that the situation is irreversibly changing. To make sure that we have a government that is in charge of providing and protecting for our people everywhere they are, including in Gaza. And that a government is enabled, given what Israel has done to the current government in terms of cutting its own funding, money, our own money, in terms of suffocating its ability to do anything, no control of our resources, no control of our borders and what have you. So the resignation of the government is in the context of the political horizon I have just outlined. The formation of a new government is our first step, starting point for the irreversible, credible steps we're talking about. And we have responsibilities as Palestinians, one of which is to provide a government that can provide for its people, a government that can unite its people, unite our political system, and a government that can undertake the two most important tasks. One that is immediate, which is the humanitarian need for our people, comes first. And number two is the right of our people to cast their votes in the democratic elections and choose their leaders. Andrew.
Yeah, thank you, Ambassador. You mentioned the technocratic government. How long before you expect it to be formed? Will it be politically affiliated? And will Hamas have any role in at least a discussion around who should be in the government, if not positioned in the government? And also, when you speak to British and American diplomats, and you talk about the need for them to, or for their states to recognise the Palestinian state, what response are you getting? Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. The political landscape has changed. We are facing a new existential reality. Pre-October 7th was already bad, very bad. I mean, 30 years of failed promises, broken promises. And a few years before the 7th of October, this government was unable to perform its duties because of external factors, primarily. So this is to start afresh in the interest of the unity of the Palestinian people, its geography and its polity. That's the key thing. That's the key thing. We want to make sure that the world has that address and the Palestinian people have that government that will be able to unite the people and the polity and the geography. And, you know, for the last 30 years, Andrew, my friends here, it's been endless, futile negotiations. Now it's about Palestine. And that's why I said it's about Palestinian statehood, not two states. There's already a state occupying the other state. This is the time to focus on the people, our people, and not on political considerations, political factions, parties. This is time to focus on the Palestinians. They've been injured, hurt, targeted, genocided. And this is a time to focus also on how do we hear our people, not just provide for them, which is number one priority, but hear. So a government that is able to provide and convene elections is the right step forward. And about Hamas, these are, you know, there are discussions, but and there will be many other issues. But this government is a technocratic government. It's not made of any political factions. Because this is not the time of political factions. This is the time for the Palestinian people. And of course, this government will have many challenges, starting with how to address the humanitarian catastrophe, the utter destruction of homes, hospitals, schools, how to begin and where to begin. But also political reforms, elections, economic reforms, security reforms. All these are serious matters, and I believe the government of Palestine will address all these relevant issues and those beyond even these issues. I'll tell you the list is immense. And as for the recognition, you've heard the UK Foreign Secretary recently saying that the UK is considering recognizing the state of Palestine. In contribution to a final agreement, in contribution to the two-state solution, as he coined it, rather than as an outcome of it, which that was an important change, because prior to that statement, the UK position was that they will only recognize after the two sides reach a final agreement, i.e. the previous mindset, the previous policy was that a UK recognition can only come if Israel accepts, i.e. there is an Israeli veto. Now that veto has been removed, at least by the statement of the government, and it was followed by a US declaration short after that the US is also considering recognizing the state of Palestine. So there is consideration, but we don't think they should be wasting much time for these considerations. Time is not our friend, Andrew, here. Time is our enemy. And do I need to prove my point, given the calamity you are following? Therefore, let them consider it in a very short period of time. And if recognition is needed, it is needed now. If we let things to spiral the way they are, I don't know if recognition would make any difference later on. Yes?
Thank you, Ambassador. With regard to the new technocratic government, given all the challenges that you outlined, what would you anticipate to fundamentally change, especially if things
With regards to what, sir?
with regard to the technocratic government and the appointment of new people not belonging to the political factions, given all the challenges you outlined, particularly with regard to access to Palestinian Authority funds and things like that, surging Israeli settler violence, given all those challenges, what does a new technocratic government what kind of change can they bring about under those circumstances? And you talked a lot about elections. How soon do you think those would come about?
That's why I said that this government is offered by the state of Palestine by way of uniting our people and our geography and providing for our immense, unprecedented needs. But that government will not be able to do so without creating an enabling environment for that government. That government cannot be formed or functioning if a person like Smotrich, who happened to be the finance minister of Israel, keeps deciding should we be receiving our own money or not. Our money, our taxes. That government cannot function should we still have all the crippling checkpoints and walls that has torn apart our economy and shrinked our economic base. That government cannot function if we still have no control over our resources, natural resources, land and what have you. That government will not be able to function if we do not have control of our borders. So we create our own and conduct our own international trade agreements, like any other government. Of course, the government will have to levy, will have to create its own revenue base. And those are the revenue bases. International help will go in the form of programs that will help in the reconstruction, what have you. But our budget has to come from our revenues. So it is crucial, it is absolutely crucial that we make sure that the new government is enabled. And this is the discussion, this is the conversation we are having with our regional and international partners. And we are presenting all these partners with clear plan and way forward of how a new government can function and can deliver. What was the other one?
Oh, elections. How soon do you think those are?
Our people are under an unprecedented situation of genocide. 70% of Gaza's housing gone. Most of our infrastructure otherwise. So, in all practical terms, this is not expected to be immediate. You need to heal the wounds. Immediate, but this should not be also too long. So it is rather months, but not years. Patrick, from there.
Thank you, Ambassador. Last time I was here, you spoke very eloquently about the demonstrations in London and to the effect that you regarded them as the best of Britain in a way. Now it's been said that the Mayor of London has been got control of by Islamists. I was wondering whether you'd like to comment on that. And secondly, there seems to be more talk in America now about the possibility that Israel will develop a plan to undertake a land offensive in Rafah, and that America seems to be more open to the possibility that this can be done without causing a humanitarian disaster. I wonder if you could comment on that, whether you are worried America is going to endorse that.
Thank you, Patrick. Yes, I did say that the last few months have seen the worst of the UK, as in the UK government inconsistent policy, and what you have seen in the Parliament last week, failing to vote for a simple resolution motion for an immediate ceasefire, instead politicking. That was not a good moment. But on the other hand, I have said and continue to say that these demonstrations did bring out the best of the UK, the best of Britain, in every sense. Because for all 5 months, every week, hundreds of thousands of people demonstrating peacefully, calling for ceasefire, that is commendable. That is commendable. These were the most peaceful demos, perhaps, in recent memory. Not one act of violence, because those are the peace seekers. So shame on everyone and anyone who would like to or are trying to frame them otherwise. As for the issue of the Mayor of London, we must fight Islamophobia as much as and equally as we fight anti-Semitism and all forms of racism and bigotry. Because guess what? If you only fight one form of racism and you don't fight the other, then you are not anti-racist, you are racist. It's as simple as that. You are racist. And Islamophobia in the UK has risen by 335% in the last 5 months or so. 335%. It's only Muslims and Palestinians who have been violently attacked over the last few months. Some of them, unfortunately, murdered. A child, 6 years old in the US, stabbed 26 times by his own landlord because of the indoctrination and the hatred and the racism. Together with his mother, 3 Palestinian students were shot in Vermont a couple of months ago because of the anti-Palestinian racism and the Islamophobia. Because they had a coffee, they were walking the streets. Bright kids, I know them. And in London and in the UK, there has been many violent attacks against Muslims. So this is a very serious issue, and we need to see equal treatment to uproot all forms of racism equally. Rafah, yes, we think the US should not mince its words here. An Israeli attack, ground invasion of Rafah is going to bring untold suffering, casualties, fatalities.